All of us face loss, disappointment, significant challenges, and yet we stay in the game. We stay in the beautiful game. We get up and we keep going. And some of us do it better than others. Some of us do it better at our own life at some times than other times. And we are jumping straight into that today. The beautiful game of life, resiliency, and coming back from seemingly huge obstacles with published author Scott Martin. Scott, welcome to the Interstate.
Thanks for having me on, Bridget. I'm really looking forward to this. I've listened to some of your episodes, and I think we have a match.
I think so, too. So you have overcome huge obstacles. You have taken your experiences and come up with a book that was just recently published, author Scott Martin, with Play from Your Heart, A Journey of Resiliency. So can you share with us why you're here with me today and what you've overcome and what you can share with people?
Well, I'm here to be pumping a book like
Excellent.
I've been doing for months now. Yeah, my book is titled, again, Play from Your Heart. And it describes a guy that his professional trajectory was going upward. So that's me. Back in 1993, I was the head women's soccer coach at the University of Wisconsin at Eau Claire. And like I said, the trajectory was going forward very fast, very, very quickly. We had a nationally ranked program after my first season. I was going to be heading over to Europe with a group of college players that I selected from across the country to go play in major tournaments over there. I tended to do Europe in between my playing seasons. And on top of that, Nike asked me to come down and speak at their regional camp outside of Chicago.
Great.
And yeah, I mean, the only problem was, Bridget, I showed up in Adidas because that's what we wore. I didn't have a lick of Nike on me. So that brought some chuckles, and they just said, go over to the closet, get yourself whatever you want to wear. Here's some free Nike stuff. So that's always good. But it was at Nike camp, and there were national team players there and the top players in the Midwest. I mean, perfect for a college recruiting coach. But then we played an exhibition, and never happened before. I had to pull myself out because I wasn't feeling well. And I spent that night either throwing up profusely in the bathroom or sweating like crazy or shivering like crazy in my dorm room, and woke up the next morning knowing that I needed to go get some help. So outside of Chicago, no idea where hospitals are. And this is before GPS. But my mom was an hour and a half away. So I went to see her. And as soon as she saw me, the brilliance of women, she said, get your butt over to the emergency room. Something's wrong. Right. So I went, presented myself, and was told that Gatorade will do the trick for you. No, didn't really do that. Showed up the next morning, I guess, because I don't remember what was happening as my stepfather pulled us out of the driveway. I woke up a month later, and I'll just end my story there so we can go into wherever you want to go. So I woke up from a coma a month later to learn something had changed.
Wow. That is remarkable. So the last thing you remember prior to going to the coma is like seeing your stepfather and knowing you needed to go back to the hospital?
Yeah, but I was told that I was awake. But here's how the mind must work to protect us at times. I was cracking jokes. I was put on all these dialysis, all of these machines, and my mind has closed that off. It does not want me to go back there. I've tried in different ways, but that's just how our mind works, good or bad. That's what mine did.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a safety mechanism that overrides all your attempts.
Everything.
So you wake up over a month later from a coma, and clearly you're not headed to Europe. I mean, so this
No.
was a life-changing event.
Yes. One that there's no way to compare it to anything. So I had been told by the doctor after I woke up, very nice guy. I'd say he's the one that saved my life. He came in and started talking to me. I was intubated and I couldn't move because I lost 40 pounds of muscle for atrophy. So just listening and trying to grasp what was going on, I thought maybe I was paralyzed. And he started telling me, Group A strep with necrotizing fasciitis. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Everything's going over my head. But then he slipped into, the media calls it the flesh-eating disease. Boom. So therefore, things started formulated. And then he dropped the word amputation. So my mother and a brother had to make a decision, either let me go. I was so sick. I shouldn't have been alive anyway. It was only because I was an athlete. Or amputate both hands and parts of both feet and see how it would handle life. And that's really, especially the first part of the book, what it's all about, handling life and the adjustment from learning about something like that and then dealing with something like that.
What a position for your mother and your brother to be in.
Yeah.
I don't envy them that.
No.
And I'm assuming they made the right choice.
Yes.
Because you're here talking to me today and you're clearly living life. They must have known enough about your spirit and your soul that must have guided them in that moment, I'm assuming.
That's profound. No one's brought that up before, but you're spot on with that, Bridget. Yeah. I mean, the two people, I wasn't married at the time or even we had just broken up a long-term relationship. That's why I went to start coaching at college. But those were the two people that were in position to be able to make such a decision. So yeah, good observation.
Yeah. So you come out of this, you hear the A word, and as you said, you were even curious, like, am I paralyzed? Because you just were so weak and so depleted and atrophied and intubated and all of that. Take us through, like, I'm going to make an assumption here that you didn't just perk up and go, that's okay, doc. I'm taking life by the horns. Let's go. Like, how did you make it through that initial period of confusion and pain and decisions being made on your behalf, life and death? Like, how did you make it through that initial time to even make it through the first stage of recovery?
You know, what you just said, though, there is some truth to that. That was the dumb thing I did, and I look at it as probably a male thing. I went straight into denial, and basically my attitude, if I could have spoken at the time, it would have said, okay, slap me in a wheelchair. I've got my team showing up in whatever time of year this is. Let me go back to work. And that was my attitude, and that's what I used. I was faking myself. And everyone around me, and I'm not blaming anyone else, we all did the same thing. We all did the same tap dance. We didn't want to talk about it. From there, but what he did tell me was about that losing that 40 pounds of muscle. So that gave me something to focus on. And it wasn't,
there you go.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't always a good thing, but it did give me something to focus on. It was to gain strength so I could regain my independence. And that was probably the biggest thing that well, it's hard to say because of losing hands. Okay. But independence is huge loss in someone's life. I all of a sudden started seeing myself as being dependent on people. And I was, especially at that moment. I couldn't move. So what was I going to do? So there's a lot to be said about what's coming up in the rest of the book.
Okay. And it's just a clarifying question. So when you awoke from the coma, they had already amputated both of your hands and part of your feet?
Yes, but and I bring this up a little later in the book as I'm being transferred from ICU to rehab, and I'm in an elevator, and to me, I suddenly remembered being in that elevator before with different nurses on a gurney, and I remember it as being lowered all the way to the basement, ping, and coming out and then moving into the emergency room, because I remember this for sure, that they like to play music during surgery. And for this one, they were playing Clapton's Greatest Hits. So there's an album cover you could put on the back if you got it.
That's right. Yes.
So I described that. Very good. Good choice. So I remember cracking a joke. And so I have always wondered, did they bring me out of the coma for the surgery? I don't know. I've never looked into that, never found that out. But again, I do remember that. I remember being in that area. Yeah.
This is a very practical question. Was it a medically induced coma, or were you in a naturally occurring coma?
I had wondered about that myself for some time, but then I did learn that it was medically induced, because just remembering back to how many machines were in the room, you name it. I mean, a couple of people in the family described that it was very Star Trekian. Especially the machine that was going up and down. You could tell with my breaths. And one of my friends described it as, I couldn't even find you because of all the machines that were in there. So therefore, I had to be medically induced at some point. At some point, they had to put me under in order to take care of me.
Thank goodness that you live in the age where this was possible.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
Yeah. So and I know that you go into this, and I cannot wait to read the book. I want to walk beside you through your book, through all of these stages. Can you take us to you knew you were going to be okay? And what did that feel like? And what happened then?
I really didn't reach that point until like 2018, Bridget. This was 1993 when I became sick. I really didn't get there and coming back to myself and regaining that confidence until I would probably say 2018, when I reunited with my now wife, Sue. We had been apart for 40 years, and it just so happens. Yeah. So there's another book involved in that too. Quite the story. It's all over the place with so many different things. Yeah. It was a long time.
That's incredible. So that is a very long time.
It is. But I attest it to her, because it could be a male thing. It could be what the hell are you supposed to do now sort of thing, then I never really settled down and settled in. I mean, for example, Bridget, I never, the only time I ever saw a psychiatrist, I saw two in rehab, and they came to do an IQ test. It was the only time. I'll put the blame on me for that, but I didn't go out and seek that sort of help. So learning through trial and plenty of error.
What were you doing in those 40 years? I guess not quite 40. What were you in the?
Well, pretty close.
What was it, 30 something years?
Yeah, since then, since 93. Yeah, we're getting up to, because I was 35 at the time. I'm 67. So I always thought, even back then, when I hit 70, as soon as I crossed 70, I will have been in quad amputee for more than half of my life. I remember thinking that even when I was in hospital. But I'm going to go ahead and capsulize this a bit and try to get to some stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
So 4 months in rehab, I gained my strength back. And actually in rehab, I was fitted for hooks. I did not want to do hooks. I blew through their training regimen they had. And I think it was after not even 2 weeks, I was down in the Nautilus machine because I was an athlete. I knew how to train. I knew the mindset.
Right.
And I definitely had the incentive to get my strength back. But one of the things, Bridget, I will say, when I sat down to first start writing, it was, okay, I'm going to be totally honest about everything because people need to be able to read, not just some BS, somebody trying to get through something, the real down and dirty, gritty, how did all of this affect me? So I share all of that. And those 4 months in rehab, I mean, I almost bled out at one point. Some of the people I met, I described. I mean, there were some great experiences. There were some traumatic experiences with being fitted with the hooks and not knowing how to use them. And my mom, who would come every evening and feed me, hated that. Loss of independence again. And we would watch Wheel of Fortune together. And I describe it during one chapter in the book about her coming and me using the hooks for the first time and how we both were not sure how to handle the situation. And here I was dropping spaghetti on my lap and doing this, and my mom reaching over to help me. And I chewed her out and said, no, I can do this myself. There was that confrontation, the issue of denial, and wanting to be able to deal with it myself. So there's a lot of things in there. Heck, a psychiatrist should probably want to read that and maybe learn some things about what a person goes through during those situations. I don't know.
I almost wonder if you didn't seek, like being the athlete, from what I know, I'm not a doctor, but you're right, it's probably one of the reasons that you actually made it through the ordeal. And then it probably contributed to your ability to rebuild the strength and know how to build the muscle, all of that. But I almost wonder if your ability to coach, and because you did know some of those things, I wonder if that's one of the reasons why you did not seek additional mental help or with a psychiatrist.
I think there's great evidence to support your statement based on how I treated my mom at that time. I can do it myself. Because I also realized that my mom, almost losing a son like that, my family, my mom was there all the time until I woke up. And I knew that. So me feeling the need to make things less difficult for her, that had to be number one in my mind, even though it would sometimes come out in the form of anger towards her.
Right.
You've done enough. That's probably what I want to say. You've done enough. Let me handle it from here, even though I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
That's right.
I'll figure this out. I'll figure it out. Yeah.
And I've got these hooks and I don't want them, and I'm going to figure it out.
But things did change. I 4 months in rehab, towards the end of my stay in the hospital, I was fitted with these. These are called myoelectric hands. They're pretty high tech, German made. And it's just so funny because I think maybe a lot had to do with, I hated the hooks so much because they reminded me of my disability. Okay. Some people like that sort of thing. I just couldn't. I didn't want to be reminded by looking down and seeing this all the time.
Right.
But almost immediately after I was fitted for these, and I didn't know how to use them perfectly either, I asked for a pencil and some paper, and I locked the pencil into my hand so I couldn't open. And surprisingly, my handwriting was exactly the same. Strange.
Oh, that's wild.
And I knew that I had to change how I ran the program, how I worked with the players. So I wrote, over the course of a couple of weeks or so, I wrote a manual, and I titled it the Soccer Atlas, Where Are We Going and How Are We Going to Get There? And everything was in there. It was a program manual for my staff and the players, and for me, for once I got out of the hospital. So I used that, and I had 4 more years of coaching, most of it nationally ranked. But once we started
Great.
slipping and but I was doing the tap dance of doing a pretty darn good job of thinking that I was faking myself, expressing, oh, everything's fine. My recruiting went down because my confidence went down. I couldn't walk up to a tournament and then a player say, here's my card, let's talk. I lost that. So I resigned. If I can't do it properly, I'm gonna quit. And that's when I, really started running into discrimination. 2 months later, we had a medical malpractice trial against that attorney against the physician when I first presented myself. 2 weeks, $10 million, boom, 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 all of this stuff, losing that and having nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a pretty big pivot point in itself. What do you do? What do you do when you have nothing? So I said, okay, I'm going to break myself down. I was already pretty well broken down. I was going to continue breaking myself down in order to build myself back up.
It was a short trip?
It was a short trip, yes. But there was a trip involved. Actually, a couple. I'll venture off a little bit about discrimination. I had a couple of interviews out east. I went to one, and I describe it very well in the book, I think, that I had a meeting with the athletic director. I was walking down the hallway after the meeting, and he yelled across the hallway to his secretary, why did I just interview a guy with no hands for this position? I heard that. So here I am. I went from a white guy in athletics, and you just have to win, to, being labeled and then labeling myself as disabled and finding out what that side is like. It's not a fun side. Being discriminated
doesn't sound like
against.
A fun side.
No, not at all. So that was in the midst of between resigning and the trial. But after the trial, I still worked, and I got myself a gig out in Olympia, Washington, Evergreen State University with a guy named John Wedge. Wedge had read my coaching manual, and asked me to come out, but he said, I don't have any money. That's fine, John. That's fine. I pitched all of my awards, everything, sold everything that didn't fit in my car. My cat Bogart and I hopped in the car, I think a 4-day trip out to Washington, enjoyed the trip, able to relax, went on food stamps, lived in a crappy apartment. So I broke myself down pretty far.
Yeah.
But it was needed. That really was the start of the bounce back from there.
How critical was John allowing that opportunity to come together? How critical was that? Like his belief, he saw something in you. He believed in you.
Yeah. He said, Scott, I want you to run the tactical side of things. And that's what my strength was. But we had an agreement that because he was well known out on the West Coast, he would do his thing and get his feelers out with any other college coaches where I might be able to land. And he did come through. Gonzaga University, where we had a handshake agreement with the head coach that he was going to be leaving, but he was going to announce me as his assistant coach before he left. So therefore, they would have to, because of timing, slide me in as the interim head coach and then just prove myself. It was a Division I, great school, fantastic. But at the same time he left, they hired a new athletic director who was unaware of this deal. Oh. So they kept me on as an assistant to someone who didn't really know what the heck they were doing. And that was a really bad experience. But because of that, I had a taste for Division I, which is where I wanted to be. And that's also where here we go with another pivot point where I stopped coaching. I called, left a message for the athletic director. Please remove my name from consideration. And instead, I did something strange. Started adopting children. I left soccer for 20 years. And you asked about 20 years? Here's what I did. I was a father to 5 adopted kids, 2 from Romania and 3 from Ethiopia. I don't know. I've been asked, why did you do that so many times? And I always say, I have no idea. It was something that pulled me. Yeah.
And you were doing this on your own. This is before you reconnected with Sue?
No, by that time I was married. I married a physician that took me in. Yeah, when I first moved to Olympia, and because of that, that's how things went for 20 years. We ended up divorcing, but I did return to coaching, and that's where the second half of the book really takes a kind of a Disney-esque turn in life. Yeah, another pivot point.
But that's remarkable. So you and your then wife were adopting 5 children and raising children. And
yeah. I mean,
how much did you love being a father?
I loved it.
Or do you love being a father?
It was, toddlers, if I'm someplace like in a men's room and there's a dad with his son or something, I just chuckle and say, man, I totally understand where you are, but enjoy this time. Enjoy that time, when they're of that age where they're doing so much learning when they're sponges.
Yeah.
and they absorb some things. I mean, especially you've got kids from Europe and Africa that have had some of the negative experiences they had very early on in life. So it was giving back. I was a teacher before I was coaching soccer at the college level. So all
Right.
of that seemed natural to me, very natural. And just raising the kids, just being tata, which is Romanian for father.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Do you have any grandkids yet?
One
Excellent.
of them.
Okay.
Yep. Very proud of her on what she's been able to overcome and become
Mhm.
at the same time. So yeah, cool little kid.
So pivot point occurs, and that chapter, I mean, you're still a father and a grandfather, but that choice and focus shifted. How did you get back into where you are now?
Okay. So did a lot of moving from place to place, and which I think was good for the kids. They had different experiences where we live in Colorado, New Mexico, 5 years in Las Vegas, ended up in Bellingham, Washington. And my youngest was well established in high school. A couple
Mhm.
were in college by then while I was in the military. And I had an opportunity to return to coaching at an expensive youth club. One of these where the parents were paying thousands of dollars for their kid to play with expectations that are tied to that, where
Right.
there might be some national team play or college recruitment or things like that. But here I ran into, I believe it was discrimination again, not just belly aching, folks. Because I showed up with the director of coaching. He was new, never shook my hand. And even with my resume said, all right, here's what your assignment is. You're coaching the C team of under 13s, so they're 12-year-olds. Okay, the C team is, well, it's not the A team, it's not the B team, and it was basically keep the parents happy, we need their money.
That's right. I
That
was
was
going to
it.
say it's the team of kids being forced to usually live out some dream of the parent, and the parent has enough money to make it happen. Yeah.
Very good point, Bridge. Very
Yeah.
good point. Yeah, and that's really what it was. But I attended the 2 tryouts and I knew of the players that were selected on the A team and the B team, and they were bigger kids that could handle doing drills better under pressure of doing drills because they're viewed upon. I don't like to do drills, and I look past what somebody could do in a drill. I look at how a player can play under pressure, match pressure. So that's the focus. And I was pretty happy with what they left me, but I knew that we had the big hurdle to get over was their lack of confidence. But I think
Right.
that also related to me. I still had a lot of that issue inside of me. So it really was the perfect pairing, me with these kids. And there was a lot to come of it. So we had some training sessions, and I knew, and I really liked the way they did it in Washington State. You start off with your summer of tournaments. We had 5. So as we build, and we'd actually on Wednesdays, we would scrimmage the B team. Jose was cool.
Mhm.
The A team, he wouldn't scrimmage us. It was
Right.
beneath them. But
Right.
Jose was, and they kicked our butts the first time, but we got better. So first tournament, won our first match. Going into the second match, I knew they needed to learn a lesson because they became arrogant all of a sudden. They skipped being confident. They became arrogant. I'm like, okay, guys, lost the second match. Good. Because now it settled them a little bit. It's
Mhm.
all a process. So first team got out of our group, made it the playoffs, lost right away. Second tournament, made it second round of the playoffs. You see where this is going. Lost
Right.
in the semifinal match 3, or tournament 3, and then tournaments 4 and 5. We made it to the final, but lost every match in the final. But it wasn't a bad thing though, Bridget, because at the end of the summer, we were assigned to meet with our players and their parents individually. And I asked each one, my final question to each one was, how did it feel to lose in the final of those last 2 tournaments? And they were all mad about it. I mean,
Right.
they really felt it. So I knew that now they gained confidence.
Yeah.
If you're confident, you're going to be mad about it. If you're not confident, well, whatever. No, they wanted to win. They expected
Right.
to win. And by then we had beaten the B team in scrimmage. See? So
Excellent.
it's all progression. It's all about patience. And at the same time, I could probably look at myself as I was doing my own growth spurt during this
Right.
time, So they were ready for an 18 match state league schedule.
Mhm.
And, ended up tying the first match on literally at the final whistle. The other team scored a goal to tie us. And I was like, oh my God, these poor kids. Now, they get to this and now they ended up, my God, literally the last second. I
Right.
described in the book, so there was more to it in the book that described it. But Bridget, I mean, here's the Disney stuff. I'll just cut to it. 18 matches, undefeated.
Wow.
I mean, a book was demanded by that time,
Yeah.
most for sure. with everything they went through.
And that means that those C team players, they found a connection working with you in that summer and in that season where they were doing it for themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. They finally were able to appreciate something that they could accomplish themselves. It was shortly after that, I wasn't asked to come back. Nothing was actually said to me. 8 of those kids for the next tryout, 8 of those kids advanced to the B team and 4 advanced to the A team,
That's amazing.
and then they didn't ask me back. So I just said, screw it. And that's when I came back to Wisconsin and Sue and I got together. So it's amazing how that stuff works.
It really is amazing. I think they probably didn't ask you back. There was probably disgruntlement among the other coaches of the A team and the B team. They probably didn't like that you did as well as you did. I know that sounds crazy, and there's no way they'll know, but that's my first guess if I had to guess.
Yeah, no, you can never, to try to prove discrimination against someone, all they have to say is, no, we didn't do that.
Yeah.
But I know it. I know it, and it's happened to me since, and I don't get mad at people about it. I hate the position of discrimination. And one of the things with the book is to present a side of someone that is severely disabled and what it's like becoming that and also living that life. There's a lot that goes with it. And I think that employers are missing great opportunities by not hiring the disabled as much as I believe they should, because disabled people lead a different sort of life that makes them pretty tough, folks.
Right.
And if someone shows them respect, they're going to show respect back, and you're going to get a dedicated person in employment. So,
well, I mean, when you talk about resiliency, what bigger test of fire can disabled people go through? I mean, I think you develop those skills of resiliency and digging deep in yourself and pulling it out. So you're right. That has had to overcome waking up from a coma. By the way, you lost your hands and parts of your feet. Have a great day. You overcome. There's skills you develop there.
Yes.
That is
skills that
unique.
aren't trained. Yeah, very exactly. You don't know where they come from because we're tested.
That's right.
And how do we come out? How do we deal with being tested? It says a lot about a person.
And you come out, battle weary, battle worn, or battle tested and battle strong. It's an interesting perspective to take. And when you're looking at, I know a lot of entrepreneurs and founders and team owners listen to the Inner State, and it's something to reflect on. I would say coming up on mid-year, looking at your organization and looking, the next time you have an opportunity.
Yeah.
To purposefully make sure that you're not cutting off the peripheral vision and you're actually looking at all potential opportunity.
But I think we also have to be aware of someone like me, especially, I think me coming into an environment, I have been described by players as, man, first time I met you, I was thinking, why the heck, how is this guy going to work with us? And how is all of this going to work? Here's this guy being labeled. I get it, especially someone like me. Okay, quad amputee, what are you going to think? But so many of those players have gone on and written papers about me. Because once they drop the facade and allow themselves to experience another human that's gone through a lot in life, then they can understand it and be comfortable with it. And that's one of the positions of this book, is that I hope it helps create discussion, at least discussion.
Yeah.
I hope people find it as thought-provoking. Get something going.
Discussion and consideration.
Yeah, exactly.
It would be, it's funny you mentioned that, because when you were talking with me, I had a thought come to mind of there's probably a grown-up right now being interviewed on another podcast who was one of your players, and he's being recorded somewhere in some podcast, or she's being recorded in a podcast sharing their experience of having this disabled coach that changed their life. It's if they're not, I'm going to find one. If you're listening to this and you were ever a player, with Scott, then please reach out, because it's true. They have also had an experience working with you whether they knew it or not.
Thank you. And thank you is what I greatly appreciate hearing from my players when we're done working together. Just a simple thank you, because, I get into it too. I'm coaching a group of under 19 boys right now. And I wrote to the director of coaching that, for next year, I'm having a blast working with these guys. So yeah, I'd like to be back in some level, let's talk about it. But just sharing some things and working together and trying to accomplish things and overcoming obstacles together. That's where relationships are truly built, and where we can laugh about this stuff together. That's awesome. Yeah.
Well, speaking of relationships being truly built, so you go back to Wisconsin, correct? And you reconnect with a
With Sue.
girlfriend from decades
Yeah.
ago.
All right. So I was 19. She was 17. I was a DJ at a teammate's discotheque. The family owned this big conglomeration in one area. They had a bar, and one night we all got together and said, "Hey, why don't we start a disco in here? It's huge. We could da da da." And within a few months, we had a disco. I mean, it was the spot in central Wisconsin. Nobody thinks of central Wisconsin as cool, but this was. It was a dance club.
Right.
And it was the night before opening, so we had a soft opening. And I remember walking in from using the restroom. I was going to turn to go up to the DJ booth because I think he had a long play Donna Summer song on or something, you know, so I'd go to use the restroom. And it came in, and on the other side of the bar area was this girl. It's like, there was just something, again, I can't connect, going back to adopting my kids. I have no idea. It was something that just, there was an intention.
Electricity.
I mean, yeah, boom. Yeah. And so we hung out, we dated a little bit. Actually, we only went on one official date, Bridget, but I never forgot about her. I let it die. I kind of forced it to die because I knew I was too immature for her. Even at 19, I didn't want to screw that up. So I thought it would be easier because I was getting my life together. I dropped out of college because I just wanted to play soccer. And when I finally got it together, you know, life started happening by then. And, you know, 10 years becomes 20, becomes 30, becomes 40. And she reached out to me through Facebook from the wife of a former teammate or something. Somehow she linked it together. And I remember the day that I had a message from this had a different last name. She had remarried. She had married. And then when I looked through her images, holy crap, my God, it's that Sue. I didn't know. So there was this, it was almost like walking into the bar again. It was just immediate. And then when we were communicating and we finally got together again, it was as if that 40 years didn't exist.
That's remarkable.
It's amazing, that thing about humans that's there. But of course, there are times when we've cried about the things that we missed together and we didn't accomplish together. And I've apologized to her many times for not moving forward, but she understands that I was just too much immature, wasn't ready, but am now. We're doing fine.
That's awesome. So you've been together now 8 years?
Yeah.
Around?
We've been married for over 6 now. So it's been great. Loving it.
Is there any part of you that, I don't know if this is I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
Go
is there
ahead.
part of you that takes comfort that this love of your life is someone that knew you before everything happened?
Great. Wow. You know what? It probably does, because it allows me, at least it's something that I can attach to prior illness. You know, I don't think that that's the reason, because I don't glom onto her and just talk about the old days. Because we have so much
I don't
going
mean
on
it
now.
that way.
Yeah, I know you didn't. But it is interesting because I'm sure that inside me, I find solace in things and my memories of being with her back then, because those were good times. Well, I have good times now, but those were pre-illness when I could hold her hand. You know, that's something I wish we could do now, really, but just can't. You know, can't.
But there's
like
also the thought of she knows you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, you know, because that through line of knowing you, I just think that's probably, something that is, that makes your relationship special.
Yes.
So it's phenomenal.
She must have seen me now back then, my strength.
Yes.
And I think I felt, looking back, I think that guy at 19 was weak, but that guy at 19, I think, was also smart enough to know that by continuing on with her, I mean, and we've talked about this, and I've been the most adamant one about it. If we had moved forward and really, if I wasn't mature enough, for example, just pointing a finger at me, or we didn't work out together, we wouldn't be here now.
That's right. Yeah,
you know?
you wouldn't be having this remarkable chapter now.
Exactly. And
I think you're right.
Yeah. She has brought me, because of being with her, I won't say it's her. By being with her, I have returned to being my old cocky self. You know,
Right.
We won that state championship. I moved back to Wisconsin, and 3 years later, I had another group of kids I worked with, and we won another state championship here in Wisconsin. You know, and that's a result of, I say a lot of it has to do with her. It really does. Me returning and just not being afraid of things and talking with people and working with my players and just being myself with the players, because to me, it's built around relationship. For example, my players, and this is hard for this group especially, because they wanted to keep calling me coaches. Please, please, please don't do that. Call me Scott, so we can become natural and comfortable with each other, because I get into building relationships with you guys, because that's where your quality play will come from, is through
That's
relationships.
Where the power is.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And them working within themselves, for us all coming together, because, it's hard to defeat a family. It is. Yeah. It's been cool.
So I know, as you said, you've had multiple points you've shared today that could have been a book just on their own, right? Or a screenplay on their own. What was the moment where you said, okay, the time's right now. I'm actually putting pen to paper and I'm going to dive into Play from Your Heart?
After winning that championship match,
Okay.
here's more drama to it. It was against a team that beat us in that last tournament final. And then they were in our league play. And it boiled down to the 18th match. Here we go with Disney again. I mean, it's the truth, folks. They were 1 point ahead of us. So in soccer, you get 3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie. Well, we were undefeated, but we had some ties. And they had lost one match to us. But it just worked out mathematically. We were 1 point behind them. So going into the final match, and it was at home for us, all they had to do was tie. And they would have won. They would have won by 1 point. And I describe it in the book. I mean, of course, it's the ending of the book, pretty much. There's a little something at the end, but it came down to that one match, and that one match we won. So, all of that stuff ties together in a nice little neat package. And I think the title Play from Your Heart covers the entire book. I had to do it. I learned how to do it again with them and then with Sue, and they learned how to play from their hearts, or play from your heart. And I think the title is perfect. And you know what, Bridget, there's not a title for another book out there with that on it.
It's
meant
funny.
to be. Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, it's such a great title. It's impactful. It says a lot. And by the way, you mentioned Screenplay. I finished it, and I'm pitching it to producers as we speak. So
it's amazing.
Screenplays,
I can't wait.
Screenplays out there. Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's a different animal than trying to sell a book. Definitely a different animal, but because there's a lot more money involved, a lot more.
Yes, so there is. Yeah,
going to be more scrutiny. So see what we have.
How did you do with writing? Like, did it flow once you started? Has it been a difficult journey?
There were plenty of times when I would wake up at 2 a.m. and with a line or a paragraph or a word or something. And for me to go jot that down, it's kind of hard. There were times if it was just a word or something, I'd fire up the computer and I'd put my stylus in my mouth and I'd type an email to myself with that word in it. But if I had longer, I'd slap my arms on real quick and they'd have to warm up in order to start working. And then I would sit and type it. So there were plenty of those times where, the book is done. Nope, just had an idea. Got to have that one in there, or this or that in there. So it was cathartic. It was necessary as part of my rebirth, so to speak. But some of the ideas, some of the lines, we have music in there, by the way. It's an interactive book. And some of the songs and things would just come to me. I have no idea where they came from. But they'd wake me up as like someone knocking on my skull saying, hey, dumbass, get in there and write this down. This needs to be in the book. And when it was done, I knew it was done. I don't know that either. I just knew it was done. I mean, I'm totally comfortable with it being out there. Going through it, a couple of editors a couple of times each, that helps.
Yeah.
Change things up. It
does.
So it's been a really interesting experience. Screenplay writing is something totally different because instead of trying to tell a story, you're trying to show a story through words and direction.
Right. You have to do it in a time frame.
Mine's at 105 pages exactly, which means people don't know about screenwriting is that in theory, the movie is there for 105 minutes. So That's 1 minute per page is what the industry standard is, but it also leaves some room. You're told, don't go over 120. So it leaves some room. I want to have some music included, that it's included in the book, and in the story. And I've been told that costs money, man. That costs money. Don't list that you want certain songs in there. Let the producer decide, because they have to pitch it in order to get the money to finish the project. So, yeah.
Hey, you can put your heart in there and dream big and see what happens, right?
Exactly. It's all about see what happens. And I think that's one part of the book too, Bridget, is what the heck? This is life. Let's go try something. Let's not
Yeah.
worry about so much. Let's not be hurt so much by things. I just want to throw out something real quick. As I've been doing more of the marketing aspect and interviews and stuff and on podcasts like yours, it's come out as this is a positive story in negative times. I love that. I mean, we all know we're living in negative times all the
Right.
time. We're compounded by it, but this is a positive story in negative times is something I think leads the way. And that's how my story about promoting the book is coming through to people as more of a human
Good.
interest story. Yeah.
Well,
So,
it really is. I want to ask you, because I do think you're uniquely positioned and uniquely qualified to answer this. So many people today are struggling, and they are struggling to overcome messes they've made in their life or perceived disappointments or, financial failure. So it's more a lifestyle, not life or death. So you've been in that spot where all choices were removed. You had to put all systems go towards I'm rebuilding muscle, I'm regaining independence, I'm learning how to eat with hooks. I am going to love my mom and also put her through some paces because she's the person I can and she's next to me, right? So you've been through this. You had a choice. I know that's a whole other conversation we could have. You did have a choice.
Yeah.
You could have not, right? But you chose to do that. But when people are facing something that is hard and difficult, but it's not life or death, it just creates a little bit of discomfort or a little bit of disappointment. And they are on the treadmill of complacency, just going on. And yet they're exhausted and they know their life could be different. Where can they even start?
I've been asked similar questions to that. And what I always comes down to is cut yourself some slack. I mean, that's what that guy at 35 laying in a hospital bed that couldn't move should have done. He didn't. But maybe some people can learn from that on things I should have done and didn't, or I could have done differently or better or whatever, or met with psychiatrists sooner or whatever. And I didn't. But for example, my story could be looked upon as that. Cut yourself some slack. It takes time. But we all understand too, my timing was they wanted to get me out of hospital as quickly as possible, but there were things I had to I had to learn and become strong enough to do things in that. And the university didn't necessarily have to bring me back because I wasn't able to do the job the same way. They could have skirted around some things, but there has to be good people on the other side to accept you as well and align yourselves with those sort of people. I mean, I learned real quick who my friends truly were.
Yeah.
And I was able to, I didn't have to weed out many good, great people that would work with me. When I came back to university, I actually changed hospitals to the one in Eau Claire, and I coached from my hospital. Well, one of my players, my All-American goalkeeper, would come over, throw me in a wheelchair, almost literally, take me down to her little pickup, scoop me into the front of her pickup, throw the wheelchair in the back, and we'd go to the training fields and I'd work with her. So there was someone like that. She knew it wasn't just for her, even though that year she was an All-American. She also, I thought this was so cool. Made me cry. I did some goalkeeper training as well, and she went into my apartment and knew I had a green goalkeeper top. She wore that for every match that year.
Aw.
Yeah. And that's the year that she was All-American. I mean, making me tear up right now. Those are the people you need with you through a journey like that. And we all go through it. We all do.
Right.
So find out who your friends are, and accept your family, and just cut yourself some slack.
Well, your journey, and I am not a doctor and not.
Don't play one on TV?
I don't play one on TV. Yeah. But I feel pretty confident saying that the disease that you had is not super common. Isn't it somewhat rare? Is there a community among the survivors?
No. I will throw out one name, though. People should remember Jim Henson, the creator of the Muppets in 1990. That's where I learned a lot about it. Sister-in-law member dug through and found that article of how Henson died, and it came on very suddenly. And that's really where I learned a lot about group-based stuff, came from the flesh-eating disease. No, I've never heard of anything. Every once in a great while, it pops up in the media. Every once in a great while. It's been years since I've heard it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you hear about some people, most people die from it. But those that come out of it, a lot of them like me, could be as many as quad amputees. I met a gentleman that, same situation, he was above elbow, I'm below elbow, and he was having a tough time when I got to know him. He refused to use anything even like this. And he was raising two kids. I don't know how he did it. I think he was stuck in denial when I knew him as well. But that's an area I'd try to help him with, but it's tough to get in when you're first meeting someone and, for them to trust you and be able to talk with you about some things.
Right.
I've offered myself up to work with, in hospital settings to work with amputees. When soldiers were coming over in the early 2000s, that's when I was working with Johns Hopkins University on developing individually moving fingers. That's something that came out of that. But go back to your original question. No, there aren't any groups that I'm aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just don't know. I think the disabled community is over here. It's fairly non-existent.
Mm-hmm.
Friends that I have over in Europe say that they're splintered. And I keep saying, just copy what the LGBTQ community has done. Just copy that. They'll work with you on it, get organized and market it the same way. And that would help. But, there's no one there that I've noticed that's going to be grabbing the torch and carrying it.
Right,
Yeah,
and
I hope so.
carrying it for, and it would have to
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
that would be a big undertaking.
It would be huge.
And then this might be too personal a question, but I'm going to ask anyway. Your hands are remarkable. They seem fascinating. Your arms, I think you called them your arms, right?
Yeah.
Do you have something similar for your feet?
I use what's called AFOs. And in the book, there are 2 times that I describe what happens because my right foot was kind of a Frankenstein foot. There just happened to be, here goes another weird story, folks, but it's true. The day, I think it was amputation day, or somehow there was a well-known plastic surgeon out of Madison, Wisconsin, that said, hey, I've got an idea. Instead of doing a BK on this guy, a blow knee amputation on his right, I think he did a 10-hour surgery or something. He took muscle from my abdomen, skin from the thigh, because I was laying on my back. They couldn't use skin from there, and totally reconstructed the right foot. But when you're talking about skin from the thigh, that's not meant to be walked on. So there were 2 times in the book that I described that I actually had to get around my little apartment on my knees because they had to do surgery to close it up.
Yeah. Right.
The braces I was using. But finally, and again, I describe it in the book, towards the end, someone came up with what seems to be a simple solution, that the foot does not pivot. It just works off of everything. It's mathematical on how pressure is applied and not applied to certain areas. And since 2018, I've never had that foot open again.
Okay.
So it's not just Sue, I don't think. Though she has a lot to do with it. But I think it's the prosthetic or the AFO, the braces that I wear. So that's been fantastic. But I do check it every night and every morning just to make sure that a hole is not happening, because that would not be good.
Yes. Well, it does not sound like that would be good. Again,
No.
I'm not a doctor, but I'm putting that in the would not be good category.
You got that. Yep.
All right. Well, I would ask what's next, but you're right in the middle of so much, with the screenplay and having the book launch literally this week, the week that we're recording this. It launched 2 days ago. But I'll ask anyway, do you have any plan beyond the screenplay and the book launch?
There is
What's
a book
next for you and Sue?
There is a book ready to go based on the very ending.
Okay.
But, I need to get the foot squarely in the door first. My focus right now, it's juggling 3 things: our soccer season, which wraps up in a couple of weeks, the book launch, and the screenplay, and pushing on that. So I have a lot of plates in the air, balls in the air, whatever people want to describe. Hey, let me mention something, Bridget. One thing about the book I literally stumbled upon. The second time the book came back from our editors, I noticed that we intentionally included music in there. Now, copyright laws don't allow us to the electronic version, for people to click on. But I did this. I opened, and because I was reading electronically, and somebody could do it with paperback, it's also in hardcover. Open up a tab in Spotify, and anytime we find a song, for example, I Won't Back Down by Tom Petty, perfect for when I'm building myself back up and I throw away all my stuff. Go plug in I Won't Back Down by Tom Petty in Spotify. Listen to the song. We've got so many in there. Then come back and read. It's such a cool experience. I've never found this in a book before, where you could experience songs that are perfectly related, and in most cases were exactly what I was playing at the time.
Right.
It's a really cool experience. I hope people try it and like it, because it's neat. I like it.
It sounds remarkable, and it's right up my alley. I absolutely love music, and I hear what I hear you saying is there's healing and therapy in music, and I believe that as well.
Yep.
Yeah. If you lean in on it, it can really reach into your psyche and your soul and your self-perception in a way that few other things can.
Exactly. Yeah. It's human. It comes from the soul, and it's something that someone shares, and it's something for all of us to experience, So if people like blues, jazz, reggae, Motown, go read Play From Your Heart and listen to songs as they come up. I think people really like it.
I think it's really, I think that's remarkable. I love that. And it is the other thing I like about songs and music is that they meant one thing to the lyricist. They meant one thing to the performer, but that one song can mean a million things to a million people.
That's great.
And I think it's one of the ways that it is therapeutic for us, because for each one of us, the same song, it could bring about entirely different feelings and different meaning in me than it does in you. And we can both love it.
Yep, exactly.
Or one of us could love it and the other would be like, I always change the station when that comes on, but it's, it's just, it's remarkable.
Yeah.
And so I'm intrigued and excited to hear that about your book. One thing that I am curious about.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a bucket list? And what is a bucket list item you'd be willing to share? Like, what do you want to do before you pass?
Well, soccer has taken me to most every single country in Europe, especially. And Sue never traveled much out. She never went out of the country. So since we've been together, we did a bucket list thing 3 years ago. I said, okay, honey, here's what you got to experience. If we're going to Europe, if this is the only time we ever go, we did Amsterdam. We did Bruges, Belgium, which is a great stopover before we did Paris, and then London. And of course, there was some soccer involved in there. So she got to experience going to professional matches over in Europe too. So I would like to continue what she wants to do. We've talked about renting a car in London and then heading up into Ireland and coming down into Scotland and experience the British Isles by car. All the little spots, and finishing up again in London because we both just love London. So that's something I want us to accomplish together, because it's something she wants to do.
It sounds great.
So we can do that. Yeah.
That's phenomenal. So
well, and coming up, I'm going, here's one little bucket. Well, it's more from my brother, heading out to Seattle next week, and he and I are going to go to his first World Cup match. I've been before.
Oh, nice.
But it's going to be his. So yeah, it's going to be very special. He is extremely excited. And I've told him about outside the stadium before and after the match is where the experience is.
Right.
The match is one thing and we will enjoy it and understand it together, but it's outside I want you to experience. We're going to go see Bosnia and Herzegovina and Qatar, but it doesn't matter because the cultures of those countries will be outside celebrating.
Right.
That's what I want my brother to experience.
That's phenomenal. So your brother's still with you, and is your mom?
No, our mother passed some time ago before I came back to Wisconsin with Sue. So Sue never had a chance to meet my mom. And I've told her my mom would have loved you. It would have been just fantastic because they never met when we were teenagers together. So she never had that opportunity. My mom never had that opportunity to meet Sue.
Right.
So, yeah.
She knows her.
Yeah, exactly. I've said that.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same. She would know her. They know each other. They do.
Yep. Well, I want to thank you so much for being our guest, and I plan on reading your book within the next 2 weeks. And I'll even do a little follow-up video and share my experience reading the book.
Awesome.
And I'll get back to you and let you know how it goes. But I feel that your story is one that, as you said, it's a positive story in a negative world. And if any of us can reach out and connect with positivity with everything that we're facing just in daily societal life right now, that is such a gift. So definitely reach out. Yeah. And it is Play From Your Heart, and it is available everywhere books are sold.
Even at Walmart.
Even at Walmart.
Walmart online ordered, people could do it. That blew me away. And it's in hardcover too, which is very impressive. That sales must be doing good enough there. The publisher wants to put it out as a hardcover too. So very happy about that.
It's fantastic. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being our guest today. And if you're listening to this episode of The Interstate, I hope you'll join us again. Share an obstacle that you've overcome or one that you'd love to overcome in the comments. And again, Scott Martin, thank you so much.
Thanks, Bridget. Appreciate it.